Global leaders warn AI could cause catastrophic harm as they meet to discuss regulation at a summit in the UK. The United States set to hold rare nuclear arms talks with China ahead of a meeting between the two countries' leaders. Taiwan's basketball league embroiled in scandal after 3 professional players were caught meddling with games for financial gain. Plus, Taiwan's Matsu Islands transform wartime remnants into art to celebrate its biennial. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Betty Chen. Global concern about artificial intelligence has brought tech and political leaders together to discuss how AI systems should be used. But keeping pace with developments has made regulation a difficult task. Stash Butler reports.
Representatives of the world's major economies and tech firms meet in the UK to face a global challenge: artificial intelligence. Systems with human or superhuman-like abilities whose rapid advance has alarmed even the billionaire bosses leading their development. The AI Safety Summit at Bletchley Park, home to Britain's World War II codebreakers, aims to set rules for how artificial intelligence should be built and used.
What we're really aiming for here is to establish a framework for insight so that there's at least a third-party referee, an independent referee, that can observe what leading AI companies are doing and at least sound the alarm if they have concerns.
The challenge is to keep AI's risks in check without stifling progress. AI is already being used to improve people's lives by doing things like helping doctors better diagnose disease. But some worry general-purpose AI could make it easier to build weapons, spread disinformation, or commit cyber attacks.
And in the most unlikely but extreme cases, there is even the risk that humanity could lose control of AI completely, through the kind of AI sometimes referred to as superintelligence.
Leaders have agreed an agenda for facing those risks, with more summits in 6 months and a year. But with the speed of AI development, they face a formidable task: to crack the code of global regulation before the technology moves on. Luffy Lee and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
The U.S. is preparing to hold rare high-level talks with China on nuclear arms control. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. The report cited U.S. officials as saying the two sides hope to reduce the risk of nuclear miscalculation. They say it would not be the start of a treaty or negotiations, but a chance for Washington to better understand Beijing's nuclear capabilities. A Pentagon report released in October says that China is on track to have more than 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030. For more on what is expected from the talks, our reporter Jaime Okan spoke to Kish Liao from the Global China Hub at the Atlantic Council.
How significant is the fact that the U.S. and China are going to hold pretty rare talks on arms control, specifically nuclear arms control?
No, this is a good thing because, I mean, this is the first chance they actually get to do a high-level meeting in 4 years. That's what Xiangshan is about. They tried this with the G20 back in 2021. It didn't go anywhere. We've known, like, Chinese are increasing their nuclear warheads on the numbers for a few years now. And there hasn't been any explanation as to why. And it's a really good thing that, this is happening. We know, like, operator level talk has been going on, but higher level contact has been very rare, and that's dangerous, like for conventional, just for conventional, like, deconfliction, let alone, nuclear intentions.
Looking at the recent Pentagon report that was released in October, China is on course to possess an arsenal of almost 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030. Is this part of that motivation for the United States to look to communicate with China on this matter?
So there's a lot of talk about warhead counts, but I think it's also important for us to understand, like, warheads is warheads. There is, the value of messaging over there, but survivability of their nuclear arsenal, like how many of those warheads are actually useful. There's a lot of unknown right now, and that's really not a good thing. When your neighbors started stockpiling nuclear weapons for no reason at all, it's It's crazy. And it's not just America is going crazy, right? This has regional implications. It's not necessarily a good thing for China either.
That was Kish Liao from the Atlantic Council speaking with our reporter Jaime Okan. Flags across China have flown at half-mast as the country cremated former Premier Li Keqiang. The reform-friendly leader served as premier for 10 years until March. Chinese state media said he died of a heart attack on October 27th. He was 68. President Xi Jinping and other officials paid their respects to Li Thursday at a Beijing cemetery where senior officials and national heroes are buried. Ordinary people have gathered in Li's hometown in Anhui province. Plainclothes police officers and Communist Party volunteers are there in case his death becomes a trigger for social unrest. Foxconn founder Terry Guo's petition to run as an independent candidate in Taiwan's January presidential election is being investigated over more bribery claims. Authorities in northern Taiwan are investigating claims that his campaign gave bottles of rice wine to people who agreed to sign. He submitted hundreds of thousands of signatures to the election committee on Wednesday in hopes of getting on a ballot. Guo's campaign has denied earlier accusations of fraud. Police in New Taipei have busted a major election gambling ring. They've taken over 100 people into custody in a 10-day operation. The ring had already accepted some $150,000 in bets on the outcome of January's election. Police say the ring was being run by someone in China and are investigating further. Authorities say they will continue to crack down on election interference in the run-up to the votes. Police have busted another investment scam that lost investors over $1 million. Such scams are a chronic problem in Taiwan, but in this case, one of the scammers was a well-regarded employee at a global bank. John Van Trieste has this report.
This man is just another alleged scammer facing jail time. At first glance, his alleged crime, defrauding bank customers in fake real estate investments, isn't unusual. Taiwan's police have busted a string of similar scams over the past few months alone. But this case stands out from recent ones because the alleged scammer supposedly got help from inside the bank and from a reputable banker. The second suspect in this case, surnamed Ke, is a financial advisor. During his time at DBS Bank, he posted online that he'd won a sales award. But police allege he used his client's trust and his knowledge of who had money to run the scam.
跟他接触的被害人说明说，我私底下有一个新的投资管道，那比一般市面上的定存可能好一些。
He focused on those with the biggest accounts, guaranteeing the initial investment and promising up to 26% interest a year. And at first, it seemed genuine. When the scam started in 2019, investors did get paid. But last August, the payments stopped coming. 4 investors blew the whistle. Police now think the banker was funneling the money to the chief scammer after taking a small cut for himself. An initial count puts investors' losses at around $1.5 million. DBS Bank says it won't comment. The banker in question left his job there in 2020, early on in the scam. But he is known to still work at another bank, and it's unclear if customers there may have lost money too. An investigation is still ongoing. The banker is out on bail, but is likely to face legal repercussions too. Though police continue to uncover investment scams, scammers continue to find inventive ways to avoid suspicion and steal unwitting people's money. Luffy Li and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Malaysia has extradited 10 fraud suspects to Taiwan. They're among 19 Taiwanese nationals Malaysian police have arrested in connection with the phone scam ring. 4 are fugitives wanted in Taiwan for other crimes. Taiwanese police say there might be links between this scam ring and another busted last month in Peru. Taiwan's Basketball Association is calling for more controls to fight gambling and game rigging. That's after professional players were found working with bookies. Leslie Liao has more.
Taiwan's Supreme Prosecutor's Office tapped professional basketball player Luo Zhenfeng as a spokesperson to discourage betting on Taiwan's presidential elections in January. But the campaign came up snake eyes for the prosecutor's office, as Luo has since admitted to betting on basketball games in Taiwan's semi-professional SBL league. While some sports betting is technically legal in Taiwan, Luo breached his contract with his team, the Taiwan Beer Leopards of the T1 professional basketball team. Luo's gambling came to light after he was connected with SBL player Wu Ji-ying. Authorities arrested Wu for fixing games and trying to recruit people to the scheme. Now a third player has been caught up in the scandal, Chen Jinghuan, another player in Taiwan's T1 league. He's also admitted to betting on sports games. Taiwan's National Basketball Association is now stepping in, calling for Taiwan's various basketball leagues to work together to prevent gambling and game fixing.
我们要求3个联盟及目前一共有15个球队都要增设一个专职的人，专门负责这个涉赌及打假球的事件。
Game fixing is nothing new in Taiwan. The country's professional baseball league has also seen game rigging scandals. But the country's comparatively younger basketball leagues will have to remain vigilant if they're to keep the spate of gambling and game rigging from becoming a repeat offense. Chris Ma and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break, this farm in Yunlin County is using an innovative, sustainable farming alternative. We find out how they do it.
Standing Strong, every Thursday, 10:10 a.m. on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Israel says it has killed dozens of Hamas fighters as it continues to target the militant group in Gaza with airstrikes and a ground offensive. The Jabalia refugee camp was bombed for a second time, along with other locations in the area where Israel says it targeted a Hamas complex. The strikes have prompted United Nations warning of war crimes, as Gaza's health ministry reports deaths climbing to over 8,800 people. U.S. President Joe Biden has called for a humanitarian pause in the war, as the UN Relief Agency describes the tragedy in Gaza as unprecedented. Israel's military push in Gaza is in retaliation for Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel. The enclave has been under attack for almost 4 weeks and is running out of food, water, fuel, and medicine. Crowds are gathering at Gaza's Rafah border crossing into Egypt, which is set to open for a second day. Gaza's border authority released a list of 596 foreigners expected to be allowed to leave war-ravaged Gaza under a deal brokered with Qatar. A Taiwanese doctor was among the estimated 400 people who used the crossing yesterday. That number also included some injured Palestinians. Egypt's foreign ministry says it will help evacuate around 7,000 foreigners and dual nationals from Gaza. Pakistan's plan to expel more than 1 million people it says are undocumented foreigners could bring about a human rights catastrophe. That's according to the United Nations refugee body. It comes as Pakistan has begun rounding out people, most of them Afghan refugees, and sending them to temporary holding facilities. Authorities also tore down camps and mud houses on the outskirts of Islamabad on Wednesday. The country's interior ministry says that more than 140,000 people have already left on their own. Some of them had spent decades in Pakistan. Pakistan has accused Afghan nationals illegally living in a country of criminal activity, but Afghanistan's Taliban government has dismissed those claims. It asked Pakistan to give the refugees more time to prepare to leave. Residents of Acapulco, Mexico, are struggling to put their lives back together a week after Hurricane Otis. The Category 5 storm caused severe damage to the tourist resort. Dozens of people are still missing. Sally Jensen has more.
Maria del Rosario Saravia hasn't had news of her mother, 2 brothers, or young son for a week. The 22-year-old lost contact with them the night Hurricane Otis smashed into her city of Acapulco.
Nosotros vamos a estar aquí hasta que encontremos a nuestros familiares. No te puedo decir ya mañana no vamos a venir. ¿Por qué? Porque no sabemos hasta cuándo los vayamos a encontrar. Pero mientras no los encontremos, aquí nos van a poder encontrar.
Saravia's relatives are not the only ones missing. Officials have put the number at 58 and rising after the Category 5 hurricane swept the tourist resort on the country's Pacific coast. It killed at least 48 people and caused severe damage to buildings. In the aftermath, communications to Acapulco were down for days, making it difficult to get essential supplies to about 900,000 people.
Comida al techo se lo llevo a mi casa, pero pues esas son cosas que trabajando los voy a tener más. Lo que necesito es comida, agua.
Food and water is now making its way to those who need it, but the slow response has left many feeling abandoned. In a city that thrives on tourism, even a luxury hotel has become a community kitchen.
Creo que Acapulco tiene una gran oportunidad de reconstruirse y de que se haga algo muy importante y bonito, en especial en esta zona que estuvo abandonada.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador announced a support plan for hurricane survivors.
Este es el plan. Todo lo necesario a los familiares de quienes perdieron la vida por el huracán.
But with hopes of reuniting with loved ones dimming by the hour, people like Saravia are unhappy with the response from authorities.
Pero no hemos tenido noticias de ninguno de ellos. Tampoco hemos tenido apoyo de ninguna autoridad, del gobierno, nada, ni del patrón de mi papá.
For now, all she can do is keep waiting, camped out on the dock of Acapulco Bay, until she gets news of where they are. Dolphine Chen and Sally Jensen for TaiwanPlus.
Japan is set to pass a package worth around $112 billion to jumpstart its economy. The measures include one-time tax cuts of about $250 per person, as well as a $460 stimulus for low-income households, and an extension on gasoline, electricity, and gas subsidies. This comes amid rising inflation in Japan, with food prices increasing by nearly 9% year-on-year in September. But the package is facing criticism from the political opposition, and most Japanese say they don't believe tax cuts are appropriate. Temples in Japan are offering special souvenirs to attract visitors. Laurel Stewart takes a look.
This 9th century shrine in Tokyo is a traditional worship spot. But not everyone is here to pray. Visitors are collecting goshin stamps, calligraphy markings offered in temples around Japan for a small fee. They're decorated with colourful seasonal designs and are unique to every temple.
1000はあると思います。そうですね。そう毎回可愛いなと思ったらあちこちはしごしていくんで。
The hobby has been popularised on social media. One visitor collects stamps at different temples and posts about them online under the name Goshin Girl. She prays according to Shinto rules and then goes to collect her stamp. A ritual she says is not religious.
マインドコントロール的な意味も含めてちょっと落ち着く時間があった方がいいなっていうのでこの二礼二拍手一礼の動作が結構自分の中で整理されるというか。
And she's not alone in seeking out spiritual spots for a bit of tranquility. A 2019 survey showed that of Japan's population of 120 million, more than 70% have no faith. But regardless of religion, temples here welcome people to connect with tradition.
それほど重要な要素ではないっていうかですね、キリスト教とか例えばイスラム教なんかと比べた場合にやっぱり聖典を読んで理解するとかですね、その聖典っていうのを自分の行動の指針にするみたいなそういう位置づけには信仰がない。
With a rapidly aging population, some of the temples in Japan's rural areas are struggling to stay open. But there's now a website mapping the country's shrines. It encourages people to visit with pictures and information about the temples, and of course, their stamps. Whether people are interested in the artistry, in collecting mementos, or simply ticking off all the shrines in the country, the stamps are helping keep tradition and tranquility alive. Devin Tsai and Laurel Stewart for TaiwanPlus.
Decades ago, Taiwan's Matsu Islands were on the front lines of conflict between Taiwan and China. Now their remnants of war are being turned into something else. Louise Watt reports.
This former military power plant on Taiwan's Matsu Islands is now the base for an art installation, illuminating the country's wartime history.
我们想要用光去让参观者可以回到当时的时空背景，然后可以理解当时的大概所有的岛上居民或是居民之间的生活的状态。
The power plant is opening to the public as part of the Matsu Biennial, an art exhibition that is transforming tunnels, air raid shelters and strongholds.
希望走进去的观众可以感觉到有电流经过皮肤到身体里，然后他可以感觉到电场的这个心跳。
The setting also reminds visitors to Matsu's main island of the ongoing threat of a Chinese invasion. China's coastal province of Fujian can be seen just across the water. The Matsu Islands were key strongholds for Chinese nationalist forces who fled to Taiwan in 1949 on losing the Chinese Civil War. Now, many of the strongholds and bomb shelters that islanders had to use in the 1950s and 60s lie abandoned. But China still threatens to take Taiwan by force, even as Taiwanese increasingly see themselves as separate from China. One artist who helped curate the biennial says they're turning Matsu into an island not of war, but of art.
软实力我们不怕它，我们怕它被它封锁。所以说你在马祖竖一个旗，我是在这边弄个艺术，你有种你在大陆，你也给我做一个用文化来互相抗争。
Artists participating in these unusual exhibitions hope that by reminding visitors of Taiwan's wartime history, their art can help keep the hard-earned yet tense peace between Taiwan and China. Alex Chen and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
A new breed of black silky chickens has emerged in Taiwan. Our reporter Reese Ayers has the scoop from the coop.
With super soft feathers and striking black skin, these are silky chickens. Also known as blackbone chickens, their dark meat is considered a delicacy in Taiwanese cuisine. And, for centuries, they've also been used in traditional Chinese medicine. But now, there's a new chick on the block. Some in Taiwan have complained that black chicken meat has been getting whiter over the years due to crossbreeding. So, the Agriculture Ministry got together with the private sector to breed better quality chickens with a darker color.
总产大概可以提升将近2成的产蛋。那在鸡场的部分，大概可以提高到300克的一个换肉率的一个稳定度。
It took 11 generations of breeding these dark-skinned chickens before the Kaixing Jinda variety of silky was born. A result that would have been difficult without government support.
借由政府来去协助他们，那他们本身就是要出人力，要出经费，要出时间。
This new breed of silky chicken is expected to boost revenue for farmers and ensure families across the country can continue to see this traditional meat on their dinner tables. Dolphine Chen and Reese Ayers for TaiwanPlus.
An experimental farm in Taiwan's southern Yunnan County is using aquaponics to grow vegetables. And by opening its doors to the public, they hope to help tackle a growing problem. Bryn Thomas has the story.
Creating a virtuous circle. These fish and the plants they're being fed are part of an aquaponics farming project in Baozhong Township in southern Taiwan. The 3-year-old farm is the largest of its type in the country. It grows both vegetables and breeds fish, and it will soon offer classes for tourists and students who want to learn more about sustainable farming.
太水、肥水游起来后，这个要做菜食，然后再清气水个回归鱼池啊，所以这个循环的一个作业哈，变就一个比较较这个做新的循环哈。
Growing crops and fish farming consume a lot of water, but when done right, aquaponics can drastically cut down the amount of water used. It works like this. The runoff water from growing the vegetables at this farm is piped into nearby fish ponds. This carries nutrients to the fish, who eat it and then add their own waste material into the water. This dirty water is then pumped back to the plants and acts as a natural organic fertilizer. When it comes out the other end clean, it's sent back to the fish. It's a process that reduces the wasted water of both agriculture and fish farming by keeping it in a closed loop. It's also something that could prove useful as the climate crisis continues. Taiwan has endured several major droughts in recent years, and this summer, when typhoons returned, they destroyed huge swaths of crops, causing a spike in food prices. But projects like this aquaponics farm are only part of the answer to a bigger problem. Meeting Taiwan's environmental goals means getting the word out about techniques like this.
2050嘛是目标，希望当这个净零碳排了吼，而且概念是相符合了吼。当然伫遮嘛期待，伫个未来咱这个专区内底，咱新路合作农场，伊有未来嘛要规划来做这个食农交易的场地啊，友善环境的这个交易设施。
By opening their door to the public, this farm hopes to cultivate more than just fish and vegetables. They're hoping to plant a seed for future generations and show the role sustainable farming can play in producing the country's food. Patrick Chen and Bryn Thomas for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, today we leave you with images of leaves changing color in autumn in central Taiwan's Fushoushan and Wuling Farm. I'm Betty Chen. Take care and see you next time.